Go live. We are going live. And
The live
we
is
are
happening.
live. There we go. Good
We are in
afternoon.
a state of living.
We are in a state of living. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the show, which I entirely scheduled literally 5 minutes ago because I was behind schedule and I've run out of coffee just as the show is starting. So that's a great
no.
start. That's a great
Oh dear.
start. Anyway, how are we all today? Thank you very much, Chris Kingan. As always, how are you doing? Happy Saturday from across this side of the pond as well. Appreciate the $10. Thank you very much, my dude. And hello, Bad Egg, as well. How are you doing? And hello, everyone else. Sai, I see you there. Spud Nugget. Does Spud need a ping? He probably doesn't, actually, just simply because I did schedule the video 2 minutes ago. But we should probably ping Spud Nugget anyway, just in case.
Absolutely.
You know, make sure he's aware that we are live.
Absolutely. He is required. You must be here. You have no choice.
And he's throwing in £10 as well. Dude, thank you very much. I appreciate the tenner. Let's get the show rolling. All right, Spud Nugget is dropping hints, being like, you should probably start the show now instead of just prattling on. All right. Okay, so normally Caradog and I, we are normally talking for like 5 or 10 minutes before we hit go live, just as we get set up and get settled. However, we haven't done that because I was like, he sent me a message at like past 3:30 saying, "Are you ready?" And I was like, "No, I've still got a customer in the shop." So, as I say, apart from starting the call and just doing a very, very flying sound check, we have not even said hello. How are you? So we haven't exactly discussed what we're opening today's show with. So yes, afternoon. Enjoyed the VRM videos this week. Good. Well, there's a topic to start off on.
Absolutely. Yeah. I am surprised, given that it is a board repair-y type video, and the general audience seems to like those. The second one's not doing very well.
No, I think the second one is too dry, because it's just a bunch of staring at boards and numbers.
Clearly explosions.
I did actually think that this might happen. I suspected that this might happen. I'm going to adjust my white balance as well. That's annoying me. Stick that on auto. That'll do. Yeah, I suspected when I was editing the video that the second one would not do as well because it's a lot less direct. The first video is very much, here's something to look at, here's me explaining what you're looking at. Whereas the second video is more a case of, here is 40 minutes of doing an experiment which has an inconclusive result. So yeah. I'm not sad about the second video not performing that well. I'm not that bothered. Because that video is, I think, more of a utility video because I want to do more content like this, but I needed a basic grounding video out there that just establishes what VRMs are and what the topic is. So when I do more content on it, I can say, if you don't know what a VRM is or how a buck regulator works, go and watch this video first, kind of thing. So I needed a start point to be live. So as I say, while it's I don't know. I'm not sad about it not performing. I don't really care. But if people did watch it and enjoy it though, then that's great.
Absolutely, and I think also the other thing, hopefully, is enough people will watch it to be able to provide the commentary that you kind of asked for, saying, how can you make it better? How can you kind of make it prove your point better?
That's right. And also it also puts the feeler gauges out for what other people want, because obviously I can look at the comments that are coming in and the feedback that I hear from other people, and they can say sort of, oh yes, this was exactly at the level I wanted, or people will be going, okay, this is great, but what about this? And they can start directing me to the areas they want me to cover, because it's such a huge, that was the other thing, it's such a huge subject. And the more, as I was recording the video and editing it, I was like, there's so much I have not covered in this video that I would love to cover, but it's just how much the original edit of the video was an hour as it was, which is why it got split into two. I don't like splitting videos into two-parters. But yeah, I was like, just that scraping the surface was an hour-long video. So
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely. It's also a case of separately as well, kind of because of the metrics you were using to measure. It also requires an explainer on what PBO is,
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
because as I said, I think the difference between the two boards, the two cheaper boards, was because of the PBO limits.
Hmm.
Just because one of them had about 15-20 watt different, I think it was the EDC limit was different,
Hmm.
which will affect the boost frequency. So I think that was the reason for the difference in the first part of the video, was just slightly more conservative PBO settings on the Gigabyte board.
Yeah, I mean, that would explain why it was getting slightly lower in general, but I still think the most interesting part was the fact of, well, yeah, there could have been other facts in that. The interesting part to me was still the fact that the clocks were sagging after a period of time, and then if I pointed a fan at the VRM heatsink and cooled the VRMs down, then the clocks went up. So it
Yeah.
clearly wasn't an issue with what temperature the CPU itself was at, but just what temperature the VRMs were at. But even when it was downclocking, the VRMs were about 70 degrees, and that's fine, man. That,
Mm.
that was still well within acceptable limits. You know,
I
I
wonder if there was some sort of just great amount of conservatism in
yeah,
there, just because perhaps for that board they couldn't get 100C caps or 95C caps, so they
yeah,
were trying to make sure that they were well below whatever limit the caps were, say, or
that may
something like
well have
that.
been it because yeah, because that's an interesting thing as well, because like I was trying to gauge what temperature was too much for VRMs, and that's the thing. It's easy to pull up a spec sheet for a typical power MOSFET, or sorry, a buck regulator MOSFET, and on the spec sheets they'll go to like 150 degrees. Typical, you
Yeah.
can get MOSFETs that will go to 175. And so it's easy to say sort of, oh, well, there you go. 100 degrees is nothing for a VRM. But of course, it's
Yeah.
not just the MOSFET. If you've got a MOSFET sitting at 120 degrees centigrade, that heat is going to bleed out to all the components next to it as well. And you don't want the
Absolutely.
capacitors nearby to be anywhere near that kind of temperature. So yeah, so maybe you're right. The Gigabyte board was just being super conservative, and while the MSI board was quite happy to run at that speed, it was potentially quite happy to just cook its capacitors,
Mm.
and not care.
It'd be interesting. I don't know how you do it
Hmm.
without a large amount of time investment, but it'd be interesting running the same static overclock on both of them and seeing which one fails first. Obviously, the plural of anecdote isn't data, but
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I think there's interesting mileage in that, because there are lots of like I've seen this example before. Like a really good example was a very long term experiment that Dave Jones from EEV blog did. He made a small series of videos about how to run LCD displays, and by that I mean just black and white LCDs, like what you'd find on a calculator.
mm,
Just a 7-segment LCDs. And while he was making that video, one of the things that he points out is that you have to run, you actually run them on AC. The actual drive signal is AC to the segments. And he mentioned in the video, you mustn't have a DC bias because that'll kill the display. And there were comments on that video that were just like, well, how long does that take? Because if you give them a DC bias, they'll switch on. You can run them on DC. So how long does it take to actually break one doing that? And he said, I don't know. Let's find out. And what he did was he got a breadboard and he rigged up just a single 7-segment counter that just counted through the digits, that was being driven on a DC bias. So direct current, no AC signal. And he left it running for literally like 2 years. And 2 years later, that LCD was fine. It was completely fine. but all the textbooks will say, no, that'll kill the display. But this one didn't care. Now that's not to say that that's the right way to do it, of course. That's but it was interesting to show that where you might get some rabid keyboard warriors that would be like, you can't do that, you'll destroy it. And he'd be like, well, no, you don't, and you won't. And so I would be interested in running similar experiments where, it would be great to have a sacrificial board that I stick a CPU in, where I've overclocked the balls off of it just so it has a ridiculously high power draw, and just leave it running flat out with no cooling and just see how long until the board dies. And just see if we can get a rough minimum time before failure on it. Because if it lasted, I don't know, 6 months and then fell over, you could say, there you go, heat is clearly what has killed this board, kind of thing. But that's the problem, is how long would you run it before you said, clearly this board doesn't care about the temperature, That's the problem, is how long do you expect the experiment to have to run before you've got useful result?
Before you've got to have anything that could be considered data, you'd need 50 of them that are kept down at 35 degrees VRM temperature. And 50 of them that are at 100 degrees.
I mean, I don't think this wouldn't be a scientific test, as you say. It would be an anecdotal
to draw
test.
Actual data, but it's kind of a case of how long would I expect a random one-off one to last?
Yeah,
I don't know, 4 years. But then,
do you really want to run the test for 4 years?
But then it's a case of, if it's running hot, how long would I expect it to last? 3 years, kind of thing. It's kind of a case of, I feel like it will shorten the life, but then also at the same time, the people who are buying the stuff possibly won't care.
Yeah,
because they'll be buying new stuff every 3-4 years.
Yeah,
so it's kind of
this is the annoying thing. This is why it's very difficult to really gauge results, because all the time I see comments from people whenever I make a video about overclocking. There's at least one comment somewhere in there from someone going, overclocking shortens the life of the CPU, and you're just like, well, these CPUs are designed to run for let's say they're designed to run for 10 to 20 years. Let's assume that you half the lifespan of the CPU and you take it down to 5 to 10 years. That's still its working life anyway.
Yeah. Because after 10 years, it will be non-functional from a performance standpoint.
Yeah. And that's on the assumption that you're halving the lifespan of the device, which is a massive, massive assumption.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah, possibly interesting stuff to do. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe just experience will come into it just as I do more testing, because I do want to get into more overclocking related stuff. Just to show, because again, the channel is all about the journey, and it would be nice to show the journey of me learning about modern overclocking, because my overclocking knowledge is very old and outdated.
Yes, I just very quickly had a look and went, what Intel CPU was released in 2011? And it was basically a case of the 3960X for the Extreme Edition stuff. So it was 3000 series, and it's kind of a case of, I guess 3000 series is still functional.
Yeah.
So saying that halving it to 10 years makes it obsolete is kind of a case of, I guess, maybe not.
Yeah, well, obsolete might be the wrong term, but at least
it was my wording.
Yeah.
But yes.
However, let's face it. Let's say you had an i5 or an i7 kicking about, and it was a 3rd gen i5 or i7, and it fell over and died. You'd go, oh no, and throw it in the bin.
Yeah. Basically.
I mean, if you've got one, you'd be like, oh yeah, you stick that in an office box and she'll be right, kind of thing. But if it died and fell over, you wouldn't lose sleep over that.
You would certainly seriously consider chastising someone who bought one new.
Yes.
As a replacement for their computer.
Yeah.
So kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, and people just getting into terrible false economies on old processors.
Yeah, big time. I have a repair in the shop that has gone spectacularly wrong at the moment. You know how it's never the CPU, except when it is?
Yes.
So I've got a repair where on this tower, it's a Lenovo desktop computer, and I have literally replaced everything except the CPU, and it's still freezing.
And the dust.
Well, yeah, and the dust, sure, yeah. So it's a case of like, and when I said to the customer, when I decided that it must be the motherboard, and because it's a Lenovo proprietary system, I was like, we're going to have to replace the motherboard. We can't get a replacement motherboard, so I'm just like, it's a Skylake i5 in there, i5 6400, and I was like, that's fine. We'll buy a Z170 motherboard, and we'll just buy a cheap case and power supply for it. There's no graphics card in this thing. It's an office box. I'll just buy a CIT case that comes with a 500-watt power supply. Who cares? There's no graphics card. It'll be fine. So I've bought case, power supply, a Z170 motherboard. I've tested the RAM. I know it's not the RAM, so we're using the same RAM because I've already put a different stick in there. So I've bought all of this stuff. I've put it all in there. Same fault. I've had a different SSD in there. I've had different memory in there. I've even changed the SATA cables. In a moment of desperation, I was like, I'll change the SATA cables. Maybe it's the SATA cables. But no, so it's the CPU. And so now I'm just like, I'm this deep into this repair. Am I going to go on eBay and try and buy another i5 6400? And they cost about 60 quid on eBay for an i5 6400, and I'm like, and I've been trying to lowball people. I've been submitting buy it now offers for like £50, and as soon as people have countered offered back up to like 55 to 60, I'm just like, no, declined. And I'm just like, oh, am I really doing this, or am I finally just going to turn around to the customer and say, I'm out? And like that motherboard, I'll find a CPU for it at some point.
The problem is, you could buy it now, a brand new Lenovo S510,
yeah,
for £135.
Yeah, that's the issue. Yeah, and that's the thing. I'm at the point now where that is exactly what I'm tempted to do, is just say to the customer, look, we can buy this. It's the same as what you've got. Shove your SSD in it, and you're off to the races. Yeah, and the rest of the kit that I've bought, it hasn't cost that much. I'm a couple of £100 in the red. I think I paid about £70 for the board, and like it was like £40 for the case and power supply. So I'm like 110 in the red on this, or something like that. But at some point, I'll come across either a Skylake or a Kaby Lake CPU that I can drop into that computer, and then I'll have another Intel box lying around, So that's not the end of the world, but it's just a case of just like, you were talking about the false economy of CPUs, and it's just like this entire repair is a false economy,
Although there were 6400 selling for £20.
Is that bids or buy it now?
Bids.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to have to do is bid on one. I think I'm going to tell the customer to get another computer, and I'm going to try and keep bidding on one so I can finish off the half-built computer that I've got. So it won't be a repair for the customer. I'm just going to finish that in my own time when I don't have the customer calling me up every other day saying, is it done yet? And I'm going to be like, I'm bidding on CPUs on eBay. That's not something you want to be telling your customer. I'm bidding for parts on eBay, So
that would be that will end up actually being a reasonably good PC, though.
Yeah, that's it. That's kind of why I'm carrying on. I mean, the power supply in it will be bollocks at the moment, but you could change that out. That's the thing.
Given the hilarious stagnation.
Yeah, it's not a waste of time to finish building that computer. So,
yeah.
Right.
But mentioning that, have you seen the pre?
Yeah, well, I've only seen what got posted in the Discord, so I've seen people posted some benchmarks, and it was a case of incremental performance improvement from 10th generation and lagging behind AMD.
Except it's slower.
It's slower
than 9th and 10th gen.
Wait, what? That's not those aren't the numbers that I saw. Was this shown in the stuff that got posted in the Discord?
Yeah. Go to like the very, very first one and show it in games, because that's where Intel keeps banging on about, peak gaming performance.
Yeah. Was it in general where those screen caps got posted?
No, in exclusive.
Oh, it was in the cool people's chat.
The 11. Oh no, sorry, it was
Oh, yeah.
slower than a 9900 KS. My bad. So yeah, so that's actually irrelevant because that's a 99 compared to an i7.
Yeah, that's
My
right.
bad.
Yeah.
I thought that was the 9th gen i7 it was being compared
Oh,
to.
that's peak
I
power. Where
misread
was
the
that?
chart.
There it is. Yeah, so
However,
Far Cry 5, 720p low, but yeah.
yeah, as a
yeah,
CPU test, it's slower than a 9900 KS.
yeah.
So it's just like, oh dear. Whoops.
Yeah, I mean that's a 2-generational gap, and yeah, across 2 generations, it should definitely be meeting, and and the i7, the i7 should be at least as fast or faster than a 2-generation old i9. Yeah, I think that's reasonable to say. In addition to that, the
Especially as we're
i9s,
talking about gaming, which is,
yeah,
single thread, two thread kind
yeah,
of thing.
that's not a massive improvement. I mean, you'd have to look at a broader range of things, but I think the point is that
Totally.
there's nothing mind blowing. It's a shame they haven't got a 5600X on that chart, because really,
Well, it's identical to a 5800X. Just
for gaming performance,
yeah.
yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, fair enough then. Yeah.
Certainly in Far Cry 5 anyway, it is so close to identical, it
Oh,
doesn't
okay.
matter.
Yeah, that answers that.
Basically doesn't
Because
matter.
that's the thing, is just the 5600X. That's AMD's gaming wrecking machine at the moment, and it's just like if you can't beat that CPU, then you may as well go back to the workshop, because it's like that's approximately a £300 CPU that the reviews say this CPU does everything. So it's okay. Right now, if you're building a computer, the big question is, why shouldn't I buy a 5600X?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. And, and it's a case of what Intel needed to have done is to come in and say, what you should do is buy the i7 instead because it's got better performance for the same money or something like that. And it's like, no, it performs worse and costs more. So why the hell should I buy this CPU? Because we also know that the AMD is going to spank it in anything multi-threaded as well, So yeah, that's a big oof.
Absolutely, it's a bit of a
because
fanboyism.
Yeah, well, yeah. I don't know. It's
apparently on that. It's interesting that apparently it's to do with core-to-core latencies. Is a reason for the performance deficit. So that's an interesting, different fault.
What, on the Intel?
Yeah, apparently there's core-to-core latency issues. I haven't specifically read up on it, but it's mentioned in the Anantech document. And there's apparently just
It's interesting that they're having that issue,
basically.
considering that they're a monolithic die. Like you would imagine that would be the battle that AMD were fighting because of the CCX setup. But yeah, I don't know much about, because obviously AMD CPUs are running Infinity Fabric, which is how the cores talk to each other. What does Intel run instead? What's Intel's equivalent of that? Do you know?
It's a ring bus.
A ring bus, yeah. Yeah, presumably their ring bus is on its last legs,
I guess, or it's a case of possibly they've run it, or by default it runs too slow.
Yeah,
I'm saying because like the ring ratio may then end up meaning that the actual speed of the ring bus is too slow, causing latency problems, or the inverse. They've tried running it too fast, and it's now not 1-to-1 with the core ratio.
Yeah, that's just it. It's because timing synchronization makes a big difference. It's one of the reasons why you want to make sure your Infinity Fabric is in time with your memory clock, because obviously if your main clock pulse is out of sync with the bus speed, the next clock comes around and the bus isn't ready, you've just missed that clock cycle. So that's an entire clock cycle where no work got done because we were waiting on the bus. That's a disaster. So obviously, whereas if you can make sure that all the clocks hit at the same time, then you don't get the latency.
Yeah, absolutely. Although it's interesting you're saying about that, about the latency. Obviously, even on AMD, even when you're super optimizing for latency, your latency is still higher than Intel sort of out of the box, the raw memory latency.
Yeah.
But certainly on like 10th gen to 5000 series, which is very interesting. Just kind of obviously the way that the things are done differently, and you get significantly different results.
Yeah.
I'm hoping with, as someone said about Zen 4 moving to DDR5, I hope that that's optional and it's DDR4 and 5, because the performance drop off going to DDR5 is going to be reasonably substantial for anyone who's buying RAM above JEDEC speed. So anyone buying RAM faster than 2600.
Can you elaborate on that? As in, DDR5 is going to go slower?
Yes. The same as DDR4 did, the same as DDR3 did, the same as DDR2 did. For the
Okay.
first year and a half, all of the RAM was slower.
Yeah, because you're going from a matured technology to an infant technology.
Yeah, because
Effectively.
DDR4 you can go to 4000 mega transfers, 2000 megahertz.
Yeah.
DDR at what, CL18,
Yeah.
CL16
Yeah, if
on
you got
good,
the money
on
for it, yeah.
crazy good kits. So it's kind of a case of you'll go from that to running it. I think it's 3733 is the base DDR5 speed at like CL22.
Ooh, yeah, that's a high CL. Yeah, so like
So
the
it's
base
because,
clock is nice, but yeah, the CAS latency, that's a big CAS latency.
but yeah, so it's a case that the actual like performances just aren't really there for it, and but at the same time they're kind of not really supposed to be.
Yeah, I wonder
Because
what that
obviously
would
what
look
we're
like then.
comparing is ultra high performance consumer space stuff
Hmm.
to server performance boost stuff effectively, because obviously running at JEDEC speed is what servers do.
Yeah.
The desktop is all, end user desktops have always had the option of running much faster than that.
Hmm.
Hence us having kits that are binned out at 5100 mega transfers and stuff like that, whereas JEDEC obviously taps out at what, 2800 or something like that.
Hmm. Yeah.
So it's kind of
I
a case
wonder
of,
what it would look like if we had chips that supported both. Because before I make this note, I'm just going to quickly say, Guy, thank you very much for the 10 Canadian dollars. Welcome to the new shop. Thank you very much, my dude. Greatly appreciated. I have show and tell things to do soon at some point. We'll have to interrupt for show and tell soon. Caradog knows what I'm talking about. Anyway, yeah, I wonder what that would look like if you supported both them, because I didn't see this for the DDR3 to 4 transition. However, anyone who was about for the DDR2 to DDR3, and also for DDR1 to 2 as well, I think, will remember that there were motherboards out there, that first gen motherboards that supported both. You had motherboards that had both DDR2 slots and DDR3 slots on them, and DDR1 and DDR2 for that transfer. And those motherboards were always kind of janky, and around for a long time when those things were out in the wild, every now and then you'd open up a computer that was coming for repair. You'd open it up and you'd see like the wrong memory, and you'd be like, oh no, it's one of those, And like,
yeah,
is that what we'd be going into? Would we have a motherboard that had DDR4 and DDR5 slots on? Or could they do the same slot for both formats?
yeah,
I wonder.
it's a case that like the JEDEC spec for DDR5 starts at 3200.
Yeah.
3200, and it's the fast standard is CL22.
Yeah.
The slow is CL28.
Oof. That's
So
that's
that's
a
what I'm
lot of
saying, that
lag.
for consumers, you're gonna actually have a significant difference on that.
Yeah, because like at the moment with DDR4, a lot of people are saying that there are big diminishing returns once you start getting up into the high 3000s. When you're basically anything higher than 3600, when you start going into 3800 to 4 gigahertz and up, 38 to 4000 megatransfers and upwards, the CAS latency, the CL numbers that you're seeing on the RAM starts getting big enough that you're losing performance in latency more than you're gaining in the speed of the memory. And for those, we're talking numbers of like CL18, so starting at CL22, absolutely, the diminishing returns will be massive on that. You will not get the benefit from it.
It's like
Chris Kingan also mentioned about DDR5 being affordable. I have no idea what kind of cost to expect on that.
I would expect it to be double the cost of DDR4 because it's brand new.
Yeah.
Well, DDR4 was double the cost of DDR3 when it launched.
Oof.
And it's a case of, I imagine that price will crash over 18 months.
Yeah.
Because another chip manufacturer will come on board. Suddenly there are orders out in the wild. Suddenly people are actually dedicating fab space to it.
Yeah.
So the price will crash, as it has for every swap over we've had.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, it's a case that we're talking about first word latency on the fast spec for DDR5 of 13.75, 14.44, 14. Whereas, like, in my computer, I'm running it 3200 CL14 at the moment, which is equivalent to saying, 8.75, 8.76?
Yeah, something like that.
So
there are tables to calculate it, but yeah.
Yeah, so we're talking about sort of 5 nanosecond difference, which is basically 50%.
Yeah.
In very rough maths. And it's just kind of going, yes, there's approximately a 50% deficit, potentially.
A couple of people in the chat have pointed out how the motherboards that had 2 types of memory on them were possible because the memory controller was in the North Bridge, whereas obviously these days the memory controller is in the CPU. I don't actually think that's relevant to this situation because in this instance, the reason why that was possible is that they could have a controller for both types of memory on there. However, it's entirely possible to have a controller for both types of memory in the CPU anyway, in the same way that the current Ryzens support ECC and non-ECC memory.
To a degree.
Although
yes,
actually,
I didn't mean it quite like that. I meant more of a case of Zen 4 doesn't bring DDR5 to the consumer desktop.
I see, yeah.
I meant that Ryzen 6000, presuming that's what it's called, remains DDR4, but Threadripper 4000, assuming that's what it's called, or Threadripper 5000, and server, whatever the hell the server's called, I've just forgotten what the server's called, Epic, and Epic are DDR5 because the higher base speed of it, plus the inbuilt ECC and things like that, will be far more relevant. Then you give it 12 months,
that makes
you'll have
sense.
slightly better binned kits for general consumer, for gamers.
Yeah.
And that will be the market. It makes sense to me.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I agree with that. So DDR4 on the Ryzens, and then DDR5 on the high-end desktop and enterprise space.
Yeah, absolutely. Because assuming that a 12-month delay on it would then allow for the future bins of DDR5 to come through, because they've already started drafting specs for 6800, 7200, 7600, 8000, and 8400.
Yeah.
So it's a case of, obviously, if a couple of those, even just the 6800 and the 7200, come in as kits that are actually available for general desktop, that actually starts becoming worthwhile.
Yeah. That'll be very nice as well, because if nothing else, it'll just let people hold on to their DDR4 for a little bit longer, because obviously we're all at peace with the fact that Zen 4 will be on a new socket. We're all at peace with that because we know it's happening. We know it's going to come. AM4 is on its last legs. We know that it was lucky. AMD were resistant to support it as far as they did. They only did it because they said they would. They'd have changed the socket if they could for the Ryzen 5000s, but they were committed to supporting it for this long. But obviously, if we can, when the next generation comes out and everyone's got to buy new motherboards, if they buy a new CPU and a new motherboard, but they don't have to replace their RAM, that's going to make that a lot less painful, because your motherboard is going to cost you somewhere between £150 and £200, and that's a bit of a bite to buy a new one. But when you're buying another 100 to 150 quid's worth of RAM on top of that, that turns that into this is half of a new computer instead of an upgrade. So yeah, obviously having that one generation transfer where you got to change your motherboard, but you can keep your RAM, that'd be awesome. Because certainly at this time where DDR4 is so well established, there's loads of people running around with very expensive 32 and 64 gig kits.
Yeah.
And
also just how it will be a performance regression.
Yes.
For the high-end kits.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially because the people who've got the most expensive kits are the ones who will get hit the hardest by that performance regression.
Yeah.
Whereas for the people who've got, the cheapest 16 gig kit that they could find, that's not really going to be the end of the world. It wasn't massively expensive anyway. So, 32 and 64 gig kits. That's what I think I meant. But yeah. Very well.
So yes.
Right, yeah. Good conversation. Crittle, thank you very much for the 99p with the emoji. I appreciate you. Okay, right. I've been trying to keep a rough look on the chat, and I think we're up to date. Just people discussing things. Okay. Anything more to add, or shall we move on to show and tell?
Move on.
Okay. Right. We're going to do some show and tell then, everyone, because I received the box, and I don't know if the box is actually going to say who sent it or not. Caradog knows who it is, but I don't. So, one moment. I'm going to get a box, and we're going to unplug something. We're going to unbox something. This is an unboxing channel now.
The plug for the box will be removed. It will no longer be plugged. This is no longer a sponsored spot.
This was delivered with care. Right, hang on a sec. Let's adjust. Right, and I'll just see what it looks like at 90 degrees. Otherwise, I might have to just muscle you out from here, Caradog. Yeah, I'm going to muscle you out of the picture. Hold on a sec. I need that. And say some words, Caradog.
Hi.
Yes, good. You can still be heard. I didn't want to do that thing that I did that one time where I switched scenes and then no one could hear you. So, because that was a thing that happened sometime. This box arrived. It arrived from a viewer who sent me this. It is from secrethamper.com, and I thought what I'd do, we'd open it up on the show just as a cool thing, just so I could show some appreciation. I'm gonna get a knife.
As Graham goes, I'm going to open this, and then goes, oh yeah, maybe I should have got a knife first.
Maybe. Right, I'll try not to be too noisy into the microphone while I do this. Okay, I'm going to try and keep half an eye on chat, but I'm not keeping a very good eye on chat, so I did see someone going, "What's in the box?" And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Right, I'm going to have a quick peek just in case there's personal information in here. I don't know if there will be or not. No, there's no personal information. We're good. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say the amount of times I've referenced that and just go, what's in the box? And then realise that I, in fact, have never seen the film.
You've never seen Seven?
I have never watched Seven.
Seven's a great movie. I highly recommend it.
Oh, absolutely. I know it's a good film. It's just the fact that I've never watched it. So I'm just like,
Comic Sans! Someone who cares has sent you a hamper that has a welcome note in Comic Sans MS. Changing the world, one random act of kindness at a time. Cool. Secret hamper. Let's see what's in here. Right, I'm going to rustle for a sec. Oh, what's that? Aha! It's not so secret. They have identified themselves. There is no personal data on here. Good. So I have to double check because it's really easy to make mistakes and just suddenly dox someone. Your secret hamper was lovingly sent by Dorset Tech. Thank you very much, Dorset Tech. I know who that is. Good luck in your new shop. Wishing you continued success from the team at Dorset Tech. Big thank you, my dude. Let's see what we got in here. We're going down to a smaller box. Ugh.
I am impressed with the amount of packing.
Yeah, same. I wasn't expecting the box to suddenly go to this size.
I'm also just impressed that it's mostly paper.
Better that than bubble wrap. I despise
Oh
bubble
yeah,
wrap.
absolutely. I say that because I just hate people who use wrapping that's single-use wrapping. It's like, no.
Yeah. I dislike I dislike single-use wrapping, and I dislike bubble wrap that doesn't crush down. So like the tradition, like this kind of bubble wrap. I like big air pockets because at least you can pierce those and scrunch them up, and they don't take up space in the bin. Great Scott, it's for you. March 3rd, 21. Which was the moving in, I guess. Oh, here we go. It opens. Check that out. It's a Back to the Future box. All right, and we got some cool stuff in here. We got some sweet chili hand-cooked potato crisps, not to be confused with potato chips. Let me zoom in a bit here. We don't need... Let's go back to 78 degrees. Here we go. We got some popcorn coated with crushed sweets. That sounds horrifying and delicious in equal measure. Cola cube popcorn. Let's see. We've got Puck's Folly. It's a beer. Pale Gold English hops. So we've got a nice ale there. That looks rad. Is that a local one? Does it say who they are?
Maldon Brewing Co.
Maldon Brewing Co. Yeah. Yep. Don't know how exotic that is. It looks nice, though. I shall enjoy. Thank you very much. We've got some tempered chocolate. Either way, chocolate. More chocolate. We've got sea salt and caramel and peanut butter pistachio milk chocolate. That sounds really good. I'm into it. And we've got the Beard and Gentleman's Grooming. Oh, Gentleman's Grooming, the Beard and the Wonderful.
Oh, sorry, I was looking at the stream, and as you said that, you read across on the chocolate, and I was very confused about there being gentleman beard in your chocolate.
Yes. Yeah, that's right, because your stream is out of sync with the audio because you're in the call. So yeah, and there is a beard grooming kit. So I've got some beard oil in there. I've got some, what's that? Beard wax, probably. And beard balm. Yeah, mustache wax, beard balm, beard oil, a tiny little beard comb, and a little pouch to keep it all in. That is rad. And a product usage guide. That's super cool. Well, Dorset Tech, massive thank you. I haven't checked to see if you're actually in the chat or not, but massive thank you whether you're here or not. I greatly appreciate this. That's super cool. Thank you very much for the warm welcome. I'm going to put that back in there for now. I'll put the beer back in there as well. And then I've got one more box which I'll quickly open, which isn't a present, but it's one that arrived just before we started, and I think is interesting, an interesting topic for us to talk about. There we go. Very cool. Let's put that to one side.
I also like the fact that the box is branded as well, though.
Yeah, I like that. That's very well presented. Like, I'll have to look them up. That was secrethamper.com. So yeah, I'll have to look them up and check them out because that seems like a great way to send a gift to someone. I think that's rad. So yeah, right. One more thing. Got an Amazon delivery here, which I'm going to open because I think it might be interesting. Yes, it is. At a recommendation, someone gave me a tip off. You know, we were talking about microphones. I've got here. This is the Rode Wireless Go wireless microphone set. Someone gave me a tip off that that this was on sale on Amazon, and I saw that and I was like, okay, that looks very cool. It was £125, I think. I'll just quickly show you what you get with this because I think it's relevant to discussions that we were having about wireless mics. Can I get into this without destroying the packaging? I would like to.
That's what knives are for.
Yeah, but if the top is glued down, you know.
I'm pretty sure you meant to go in the bottom.
Yeah, that's what it seems to be. Ah. Oh. It's not opening. Oh, there we go. There we go. Tear here. Oh, I don't want to tear here. Why can't you just have a box that you can open like a normal person? There we go. Okay, we're in. So. There we go. And we've got some accessories. So the way this works... I'll have to... Oh, it's tiny. I love it. I'll have to set these up. And these are... This is probably going to... I want this to be my new main use microphone. So it's a wireless lavalier setup. We've got a transmitter here, and you can plug a microphone into this, but it also has a built-in broadcast quality lav mic, so you can clip this whole thing into your shirt if you want. So if I just adjust the camera, whoop. Welcome back, everyone. Caradog will be back shortly. Don't worry. So I can take the whole thing and do that. And there we go. Now I have a wireless lav mic clipped in. The entire thing clips in. So I can do that, or later on, for a more professional setup, if I want to, I can plug in another lavalier microphone and then clip it to my belt like you would with a normal wireless mic setup. So the interesting thing is that this system is expandable. You can start out with the little built-in one that you get, and it even comes with this adorable little dead cat to put on top of it if you're outside as well. So you've got the little wind anti-wind thing, and then the receiver there, which is USB-C chargeable. They're both Type-C charging. That's then got the output, which you then plug into your camera, or I shall probably run that into the microphone on the computer, so I can run it into OBS. And so yeah, you've basically got a full broadcast quality wireless mic setup for about 120 quid. And it comes with some nice Type-C charging cables. We've got 2 of those. And it comes with the, there's a name for this, SC2 patch cable or something like that, to plug it in. So yeah, that's it. And oh, it's come with 2 of those. So that's the kit that I've bought. So there'll probably be a video about this, or for me testing it and setting it up. But I thought that was interesting. It's on sale on Amazon at the moment for about £125, or it was yesterday anyway. And yeah, that's my new mic. That's hopefully going to be my new microphone setup. So I'll box that up and just switch views again. Ooh, podcast split. Bam. So yeah, welcome back, Caradog. So that's my show and tell for the day done. So yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping that that's going to be good. Because it's Rode, I would trust it to be half decent. But yeah, I feel like that's useful because it's 120, 130, 125-ish pounds for a proper brand name wireless lav setup. I think that'd be pretty good. Oh, there were peels. Oh, I'm sorry. There's no peel.
What you'll have to do is you'll have to get your camera painfully close in and then screw it up.
Are we doing that?
Oh no, I've given you ideas now, haven't I?
You have.
Yes.
Hold on. Okay, let's go. Hold on. I don't need to switch things for this.
I take no responsibility for the actions that may or may not about to occur.
Not for the actions, but certainly for the idea. Here we go. Where's the focal point? There we go. Right.
What is focus?
Oh yeah, there it goes. There it goes. Oh yes. Oh yes. There we go. There we go. That's enough of that. We're done here. That's the end of the show. Thanks for coming, everyone.
Well, I have to say I'm certainly satisfied.
I can't see the chat yet. I'm gonna position my camera and then I'm gonna look at the chat and look at the wave of anguish that I've created. Yeah. I regret nothing.
How do I delete someone else's post?
Yeah. There we go. Right, so that's my new mic. I'm done with show and tell now. So big thanks to Dorset Tech for the secret hamper there. That's really cool. Thank you very much for that. And yeah, wireless Go microphone. I'd forgotten that I had ordered that until it arrived like 2 minutes before we hit go live, and I was like, "Ooh, I'd forgotten about that." So I'm kind of excited to get that tested because at the moment I'm using my Samsung condenser microphone as usual, but it's in the way, and the problem is I can't just keep turning up the gain on it and moving it further back because then you get echo and all the rest of it. So this is going to allow me to have a nice wireless mic setup, and I can just walk around the counter with that and it not have echo and stuff. So yes, you've got a new microphone as well, Caradog.
I was going to say, I'm just waiting for you to be wearing it, forget that you're wearing it, continue recording, go off and do something, and all we get partway through a video is kettle boiling noises.
Yeah.
Microwave ding sound.
Quite possible.
So yes, that's kind of what I'm expecting to randomly happen, and just be like, oh yeah, that's a thing.
We need an animated meme in the background. Remember when we were going to green screen this and just have ourselves on a random backdrop set every week? I miss that idea. I still want to do that at some point.
Absolutely, but it was also a case of we're planning on doing that in person.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
The circumstances have not permitted.
Yes, quite so. Also, but I can't live with this either, everyone. There we go. It's done. It's done.
So, you know I got a TV as a screen.
Yes.
That came with some very thick peel on it.
Oh. On the surface of the screen?
Yeah, to protect it in shipping and so on.
Fair enough. I was going to say TVs don't normally have a peel on them, do they? This one apparently did. Yeah, continue. Yeah.
Yeah. And I left it on there for like 3 weeks because I kept kind of going, but what if I damage it? What if I damage the OLEDs?
You're terrible. Who are you keeping it nice for? That's the question.
It was also the fact that I didn't trust how stable everything was.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, like, yeah. I get nervous doing a peel on like a new case with tempered glass. Like anyone who's actually done the peel on a tempered glass side panel knows that you've got to be. You need to make sure that everything is stable because it's quite a lot of pulling force you need there. So with the TV, I can understand your concern there.
Yes, and then it was a case of...
I gather it is freshly peeled now.
Oh, absolutely. I peeled it after like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
But it was just the fact that I left it on there, and then when I peeled it off, I was like, scrunched it into a ball. It's just like, it's gone now. I cannot put it back on there.
Yeah.
It's gone. It is now damaged. It can no longer be used.
Yes.
It is gone. Do not try and unfold this and put this back on there.
Yeah, I have committed to this. Yes.
Yes. And it was the fact that it was genuinely just like, do I need to get a knife and cut it in half so I don't try and put it back on?
Well, the other thing as well is that protective film is almost going to give it no useful protection anyway, because it's just yeah, I don't know. Like I have seen people. I mean, it's less relevant for a screen, I guess. I mean, whenever I see someone who's got a case with a tempered glass side panel and they have not removed the film, I'm just like, yo, you didn't do the peel, bro. And obviously I always say it like that. And they're like, oh, I want to keep it nice. I don't want to damage it. And I'm like, it's tempered glass, dude. You won't scratch it. Trust me. That is not going to scratch. And a lot of the time, and it's kind of the same with mobile phones. The glass on your mobile phone is an awful lot tougher than the plastic peel that comes out on it out of the box.
Yeah, but the plastic peel isn't £400 to replace.
True. Yeah, but that's the thing, is that plastic peel going to protect it from anything that it could not otherwise stand up to itself anyway? You know.
Certainly all of the like hairline scratches and stuff, yeah, probably.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
It's kind of a thing of it's just like, if you're that concerned, you probably should get a decent screen protector, preferably a
Yes.
glass one, because
Absolutely,
then
yeah.
they actually
I
feel the
am a
same.
big believer in screen protectors, yeah. Just because, yeah, if nothing else, it means you don't need to be like, "Ooh, my precious," with your phone, kind of thing. It's the same. Like I know, like certainly me and Teltac have disagreements over this, but I'm a big believer in having a silicon case on my phone, just because with a silicon case there, I can just put it on the counter, and I'm not, I put it on the counter at any given time, and I'm not thinking, oh, was there a bit of grit under there or something like
Mm,
that. I'm never sort of going, oh, I'm just going to wipe down that bit of countertop before I put my phone down on it, just to make sure that there's not a grain of sand underneath there that suddenly goes and all the rest of it. Yeah, tell that I've still
absolutely.
had yet to have an incident where a screen protector would be useful. Yeah, I know what you mean. I've scratched screen protectors many times, but this is kind of my point. Is I have a feeling that because it's easy to say sort of, oh look, there's a hairline scratch on the screen protector. That's on the screen protector, not the glass. But the glass is probably hard enough to have not been scratched by whatever that did that anyway.
Mm.
You know.
My only, again, anecdotal experience with that is just how weak the screen is on my 3XL.
Hmm.
It's scratched up and has deep gouges
Oh
in the
really?
screen glass. Yeah,
Interesting.
and it had that within 3 days, 4 days,
Hmm.
and it's the first time I've ever had it on a device, and I was just like, "Oh,
Hmm.
that's not great."
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I suppose somewhat anecdotal because as Teltac says,
Yeah.
he's got
Oh,
a
yeah,
3 and
absolutely,
not
but
had the same issue.
that's the only time I was just like, "Oh,
Hmm.
I wish I'd put one on there
Yeah.
just because of that," but it was also the case of it was so weak that I'm
Hmm.
like, "This unit almost has to be defective."
Yeah. A defective unit, I suppose. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how common that is. I suppose the issue is like if I watch Jerry rig everything with his heckin' box of pencils that he uses to test screen hardness, that would make this more interesting. But I
Mm.
don't know enough about how easily they actually get damaged.
Oh,
But
yeah, absolutely, but yeah, it was a
yeah,
case of that's the only time I've gone, "Oh, I definitely wish I had had one."
hmm,
But also I'm like, because it damaged so easily, I presume it's faulty
yeah,
kind of thing. So, yeah.
yeah. Oh, Jim, working on a building site, plastic covers are good. Yeah, if you're on a building sites, destroy mobile phones. So yeah, if you're in the building industry or any kind of if you're in a trade industry, then yeah, get a waterproof case for your phone.
Yeah.
Not just any old case, not just any old cover, a waterproof one. Not because it's going to get wet, but because the dust will get into it. That's your
Mm.
enemy, is just dust. My mate is a tradesman and works on building sites all the time to fit electrical wiring to houses and stuff like that. And before he started using like OtterBoxes and stuff like that, he would go through a phone within 6 months. And like he's careful with his stuff. He likes his tech, but yeah, his phones would just melt basically.
Mm.
Within a matter of months, the phone would look like he'd had it for 10 years. And I'm just like, what do you do to the poor thing? And he'd be like, nothing. It's in my pocket. I don't take it out on site, but just being in his pocket, just
Yeah.
it all gets in there. So yeah, yeah,
Yeah, exactly, and it's but it's incredible just the effect dust has and stuff, and also just how different devices seem to be that much more dust attractive, but also, like, how much they hold on to the dust.
yeah. I mean, like I very briefly just brushed it on my jumper before showing it on camera. But on my this is a Huawei P20, and this area here around the lenses is just a dust magnet that just gets grey with dust. And yeah, I mean, even if I take it off now, you can very clearly see the outline and stuff.
Is that gonna focus
It's
on if I
yeah, it's focusing. Yeah. Oh, that's an interesting case. Is that soft touch plastic or something?
It's silicon.
Oh yeah. Oh
It's a
okay, just
silicon
not
case,
see-through silicon. Yeah.
but it's just the Samsung branded one.
Interesting. Yeah. Oh, is that your
Also
new S21?
Also, fuck off Bixby.
Yeah. Who wants Bixby? Like,
I don't
seriously.
even know how I triggered it because I'm like, as far as I'm aware, there isn't even a button for Bixby anymore. They got rid of it,
Yeah.
but somehow I still activated it. God damn it.
Yeah. Oh, soft touch gets sticky over time. It can do. That's the double-sided edge of soft touch plastic. The way to
Also,
deal with that is just to clean it. Use glass cleaner, and it'll come up a treat. But
yeah,
yeah, I
it's
do
also the
agree.
case of the only time I've seen soft touch plastic like that has been on cases that were like £4,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh no, it's gone sticky. I'll buy a new case for
That's
£4,
true. Yeah, I mean,
kind
like
of thing.
that's the other thing I like about silicon cases is they're expendable. You know, if I
Yeah,
do actually stick a gouge in this case, I'll throw it in the bin and I'll buy another one and slap it on the phone. But yeah, one of the things I like about my Huawei phone is that both the Huawei phones I've had have come with a silicon case and with a screen protector on them, and that's just a really nice quality of life thing. You take a brand new phone out the box, and you're just like, oh, it came with a case. Oh, it's got a screen protector on it. How nice. So
yeah.
it kind of makes me sad that, yeah, I'm not going to buy another Huawei because no Apple, no Google services. And I like my Google services.
There are no Apple services on my Android phone.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Yes. I don't know. I don't know if that's going to get resolved for next year.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, because, yeah. I mean, obviously, a lot of. Because Joe Biden has been relaxing some of Trump's sanctions on Chinese companies to ease tensions of the trade war.
I believe so, yes,
Yeah,
but I haven't specifically heard anything.
Yeah,
But it's yeah, possibly.
The thing is, I can't remember enough of the politics about whether people will be at ease about Huawei or not, because, you know, like, as far as I'm concerned, the question of, you know, is Huawei a Chinese government puppet kind of thing? It's a case of, well, in China, you're legally required to let the government in when they come a knock in. So essentially, any Chinese company is a government puppet. So that's to the extent to which Huawei would be, because that's how it works in China. So, you know, so it's not a fight you can win unless you stop doing business with China, full stop, which ain't gonna happen. So the Huawei stuff is kind of all show. I'm not saying that, you know, it's entirely possible that the Chinese have got their fingers in Huawei to a certain extent, but as I say, they have with any Chinese company. So yeah. It seems completely pointless to penalize Huawei and not penalize everyone else. It's literally just a show of force or whatever. I don't know what you call it, but a charade,
security data, a sham.
Yeah, a sham. Yeah. Either way, yeah, it would be nice. It would be nice if Huawei could get off of America's shit list, because I do like Huawei devices. Although, again, I mean, I think we've had this conversation before, but I'm probably going to get a Pixel for my next phone anyway, just because Pixel devices seem to be able to do no wrong. The cameras on them are always excellent, because the camera on this is good, but it doesn't blow my mind. You know, it's much better than my old phone, but I still see people taking pictures with even a Pixel 3 phone that blow this out the water. And I'm just like, I want a piece of that action, because I don't take pictures that often. But when you do take a picture, you want it to be a really nice picture. So
I think that's the thing that I'm also not particularly looking forward to, is using the camera on the S21 and going,
yeah. Well, a Samsung flagship will have a half decent camera, won't it?
Yeah, but that's kind of the point of, I'm also just kind of expecting it to be half decent, but then also look at them and just kind of go,
Yeah. Why did you buy it? Just out of interest. Why have you bought it? Just interest to see what's about.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah.
Purely that.
Yeah, because you didn't get on with your last Samsung, did you?
I got on with the S8 Plus really, really well. I didn't get on with the fact that Samsung completely futzed USB-C.
Ah, yes.
It was a single orientation port. It was a port that
No.
didn't charge properly 3/4 of the time.
Like the
It
first,
didn't
the
support
first thing
power
is a deal breaker. What? How do you have a single orientation Type C port? Why would you do that?
Yeah. It didn't support quick charge 1, 2, or 3. It didn't support power delivery.
Hmm.
It only supported a fast charging, but a Samsung fast charging from Samsung chargers
Mm,
that
yeah,
was identical in spec to QC1 and QC2, but just didn't work with QC1 and QC2 chargers.
yeah. I can see why you didn't like it.
And I'm just like,
That is very
what?
and that's very antithetical.
It's very much the antithesis.
Yes, that's what I'm looking for. It's the
Okay.
opposite of what you like. This is your least favorite thing.
I was just like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
So yeah, and also just random software squickiness.
Mm.
But some of that has been fixed by Google, not by Samsung, in the S21, because Google's now made it so you can use the Google Phone app on basically any phone, the Google Contacts app on basically any phone.
Mm.
So you can get rid of the Samsung dialer and the Samsung Contacts app, which are atrocious. I'd
Yeah.
like to phone this person. Do you mean edit their number? No, I mean phone them. Would you like
Yeah.
to send a text message? No, I want to phone them.
Yeah.
Ah, I'm editing their contact.
I,
No,
I, I know.
tap, phone,
Yeah.
ta-da!
I know what you mean. The only reason why you would ever open the phone or dialer app is because you want to, call someone. If you wanted to do literally anything else, you wouldn't be in that app in the first place. That app has one job: to make and receive phone calls. Everything
Yeah,
else is secondary.
yeah. I
Yeah.
also like the spam filtering stuff it's built into the Google Phone app.
Yes, I've seen a touch of that on my current phone with whatever version this is running.
Mm.
That has started coming because I think I use the Google dialer. I can't remember now. But yeah, at any rate, yes, I do like that because I've certainly received calls, and then when I've been like, oh, junk, it has come up with a prompt saying, was this spam? And I'm like, yes, it was. So
Mm.
yeah, that's a nice touch.
I've been getting lots of calls from mobile phone numbers purporting to be from Carphone Warehouse. And I'm just like, but no.
Are you
Why
sure?
is Carphone Warehouse phoning me from a mobile number?
Hmm.
Very strange.
Very well. Right. Let's roll back and do a little bit of repair stuff. Because Noel Dowd said, any interesting repairs this week, Graham? And the answer to that is yes. I've had a couple of interesting repairs this week. One of them, I had a good board repair video this week, which is good because obviously I'm feeling fairly good at the end of this week because I can't remember if I forget where I've talked about things now. This is the problem with when you talk to various friend groups and you talk to people in private, but you also do a web show and you're like, I can't remember where I've had this conversation before. But at any rate, one of the issues with moving in the new shop has been layout. And I think it was about last week or so, I tried doing my first recording and it didn't go very well, basically, for two reasons. Is that A, the repair was a bust, the computer was just a no-fix, and obviously those are always very difficult videos to start recording because you're working on it and you're like, this is a no-fix, and you're like, am I binning this video, or am I going to try and make a video about a no-fix? And you're like, there's nothing interesting here, this is just a waste of everyone's time. No, just stop recording,
Mm.
But also, while I was recording the video, it was the first video I had attempted to record in the new shop. Like, I'd done the podcast already, but it's the first time I'd been doing a recording. And I just felt so awkward. I felt really, really awkward. I felt awkward on because the face camera that Caradog currently sees me on, that is in a slightly different location because it's in the top right of one of the screens instead of the top left. So I kept looking to the wrong place for the camera, and like the microphone wasn't where I was used to seeing it, and the microphone needs to be further out because I've got the gain turned down, and my tools aren't laid out, and everything felt wrong, man. I was like, oh, this is not right. However, as of this week, I've adjusted my bench setup again, and I've stacked some of my tools. I've now got my hot air station sitting on top of the bench power supply, and that allowed me to push everything over a bit more and give myself more space and have much better access to all the controls on things. And it just, this week, it seems to have all clicked into place. And so I got a good board repair, which went very well, and I did, there was voltage injection, there was a dead capacitor, textbook, absolute textbook repair. And I was like, yes, very happy with this one. And today I did a really cool repair, which I was flying by the seat of my pants, but I got there in the end, where I mentioned it in the Discord last night, but a chap drove from London to see me today with two Dell 32-inch 4K monitors. Like they would have been 700 quid a pop at the time. And one of them was bricked from a botched firmware update where the power failed halfway through the firmware update and the monitor did not turn on. So that was a case of he was like, can you help me, kind of thing, because you've got a video about taking these monitors apart. And I was like, yeah, but that was to change power boards and stuff. However, I looked at it, I was like, well, it's a botched firmware update. There's going to be a SPI flash chip in there somewhere. We take that out, flash the ROM to it, should be good. And so, yeah, I reflashed the firmware on this monitor and fixed it. There will be a video out about it within the next week or two.
Nice.
And the cool thing is that I'll show some bits. This content will be covered in videos at various points, but I'll talk to you guys about it just as interesting content. But it's interesting to me because it was a learning experience. Because as you guys have seen before, I use the EZP 2019 programmer for programming BIOS chips. This thing is really cheap on eBay. But I've been having mixed results with it. I've had a couple of fails with it, and I've been sitting there being uncertain whether I was doing something wrong, whether the board was knackered, the chip was knackered. It wasn't working, and I didn't know why. And the same thing happened with this monitor where I couldn't read the chip properly. And so I switched out to this RT809F programmer, which I had bought recently. This has been sitting in my shop for a while. I just haven't used it yet. This guy was about $50, $60, something like that. And it's a very interesting one because it can also reflash EDID. You know the thing that monitors use to tell you what resolutions they support. EIED or something like that. It can flash the firmware on LCD panels, which is very interesting. This is also particularly interesting because this effectively means that if you could fit a non-certified screen into a laptop that must have a certified panel and things like that. Because you could, not something I would get into doing, but in theory, it's interesting. So it's got a HDMI port on it and stuff like that for those reasons. But the point is that I use this guy. It's massively better than the EZP 2019. The software for it is night and day more superior in that it tells you more. And when I used this thing, it told me that I had a bad connection on certain pins of the chip. It specified the exact pins. I've seen the EIEO jokes, yeah. Anyway, and I had a good experience. And it told me that lots of bits that I was using are actually faulty, and I didn't realize they were faulty. But this guy told me that wasn't working properly, and I learnt a lot doing the repair. And so I think EDID, that's the one. Yeah. So I think there could be a lot of content on programming BIOS chips and firmware chips in the future, because I feel like with this new and better programmer, I think I've cracked it in my head now how to do it properly. Especially because I've now got equipment that tells me when there is a problem instead of just failing with an error that doesn't mean anything. So yeah.
Is the software written significantly less in XP and Chinese?
It was initially in Chinese, but I was able to switch it to English. It's still a little bit Chinglish, but also the driver for it didn't require me I'm not sure, actually, because it's probably still disabled. The driver didn't require me to disable driver verification, which is also a good sign. You know,
The driver may or may not have been written at some point after 2002.
yes, the driver may or may not be a virus, you know. So there is the driver is verified not to be a virus, at least.
Maybe.
Yeah, either that or it's a really good virus. So, so
I
yeah.
think my favorite. It's like my favorite image I saw of, just going on about the jokes about good viruses is saying about it being an Irish virus, and because it wasn't very good, please may you delete all of your files and send it on to 10 of your friends.
Yeah. So so that's where we're up to there. So as I say, I've had a very interesting day, which is one of the reasons why the stream link didn't go up until like 5 minutes before we started, because I've spent more or less all day working on those monitors, and there were a couple of there were a bit sort of some squeaky bum moments which won't make it into the video because basically. The first bit I did was I was flashing completely the wrong chip on the entirely the wrong circuit board. And after I realized I'd made that mistake, I was like, what part of me thought this was correct? And like, it was one of those mistakes where you're like, this will get cut from the video because there's no value in this. It's going to be 20 minutes. It would be like, it's the equivalent of your car doesn't start and you spent half an hour trying to inflate the tire. It's like, there's no learning experience from that. That was just like, no, that was wrong. You don't.
Oh, dear.
Anyway, interesting stuff afoot. Interesting stuff happened. I also just want to quickly say hello, Simply Austin. Yes, indeed, I'm in a new studio. Lots of exciting things that will be going. I don't know when things will be going public, but yeah, we're getting there. Things are afoot. There will be videos soon.
Stuff and things will occur.
Yeah. The next thing for that is I need to get fitted counters. It's probably going to take me another week or two. So there's not going to be a huge amount of exclusive content yet. But yeah, things are still in progress.
And stuff and things with lighting and painting and all of that stuff.
Yes. Don't know what I'm doing with lighting yet. Yeah, I think the first thing I need to do is just replace every sodding bulb in the shop. I just haven't decided what with yet.
Yeah, I still maintain it should be the panel lights.
Yeah.
Only because they're so cheap and they throw light so wide.
Yeah, I think what I need to do is I need to actually get the stepladder set up, stick my head into the ceiling and just see what the wiring up there looks like to see if I can figure out if I can DIY it or not. Or whether I need to drag my mate down here to do it for me. So yeah, that'll be a thing. And also, like, if I do fit some panel lights, am I going to remove the old ones and put them to one side, or am I just going to leave them up there and turned off? You know, because that won't look very tidy. But well, yeah, I guess I'd remove them. But I don't know. The other thing as well is just like, there's a light there. There's a light up there that's just not on because the bulb doesn't work. And I'm like, I could get more light in here just by fitting some bulbs. So I guess I'll just fit a couple just to get more light for now. But
of course, you could go full uwu and have all of the RGB strips.
Yeah.
But just all of the old crappy eBay ones.
Am I in the old Calypsos? Yes, that's where I'm in. Used to be Calypso, used to be a hair salon. So yeah, I think all the lighting in here is a bit more oriented toward how the salon would have been set up, which is why at face value it doesn't make any sense. There are certain lights that are just in really random areas that you're like, why did you put a light there? However, when it was the previous occupants, they had like sinks under that spot and things like that. So yes, clean canvas for the birth of spaghetti cables. Yes.
Spaghetti.
Okay. So I'm just reading some stuff in chat. Someone asked about the Corsair wireless headphones and the 2-pin battery that we talked about last week. I don't know what resistance to use yet. I'm planning on making a video that talks about this. I just don't know when it'll get done. I don't know what resistance you need to use yet, but I will be investigating and I will figure it out. But it could be weeks or a couple of months before that video actually happens. I've got lots of stuff to make video. There's no shortage of material right now, I can tell you that much. It's just time. Right now, it's just time.
Good.
So, yes. But yeah, and we alluded to it earlier, but yes, Caradog does have a new mic. Are you coughing or sneezing or?
I was coughing, and as I started to cough, I started hiccuping.
Oh, okay.
So I then started going.
Oh, no. Yeah.
So, yes, I ended up kind of stuck.
Yeah,
going,
it looked like you'd had that moment where you'd gone to cough and then you'd seen something funny at the same time, been like, "Oh no," you know. But yes, yeah, you're using the you're using that new Samsung mic, aren't you? Are you
Yes.
Okay? Yes.
I think I'm good now. I
Okay.
think I'm okay.
Yeah.
Oh Lord, that was something.
Yeah.
Yes, the Samsung Q9U.
Yeah. How are you finding it? Because like at the moment, there's a little bit of clippage where you've turned. I asked you to turn up your gain because you were quiet. So that's why there's a little bit of clipping from Caradog at the moment. But yeah, how are you finding it? Because it's a dynamic microphone, which means it's got to be in your face, and I don't know how I feel about it.
I don't mind.
Okay.
I have no issue. I think it's the microphone that I should have had, in a sense, to start with, based off of how I was using the condenser microphone.
Yeah.
Based off of how I had set up my desk and stuff around a condenser microphone, it's kind of, I should have had a dynamic microphone.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
So
fair.
from that perspective, it's kind of a case of it's going, this is what you should have had to start with.
What happens? How much gain have you got on it at the moment?
This is, according to Windows, set to the Windows edition of something like 17 decibels.
Okay, yeah.
16 decibels, which is a percentage of 95.
Oh yeah, 95 is pretty high then. Yeah. What do you normally run it at? Before I asked you to turn it up.
0. I usually run it at 0 gain, which is here.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I probably need to come in a little bit closer so I'm actually loud enough.
Yeah. What happens if you dial that in at like sort of I don't know, 20 or 30 then?
This is the maximum at 20.
Oh, that's 20. Oh, okay. In that case, what's 10?
And then this is 10.6.
Oh yeah, 10.6 sounds reasonable for the setup.
Means if I sit back, you now basically can't hear me compared to what it was. So
it's reasonable, yeah. There's a steep drop off, but yeah. So it's less useful for the relaxed thing. But I mean, yeah, as I say, I mean, if you were going full BBC radio where you had it, because your dynamic microphone is supposed to be an inch from your face anyway. Hello, Caradog.
Solved the problem.
However, the interesting thing about that microphone is that it's USB Type-C, but it's got the XLR interface on the back of it, which is what I find very interesting.
Indeed. Yes.
Very carefully moving the active microphone.
Indeed. I also just like the fact that the in the box it came with a to C and a C to C cable.
Okay, that's nice, yeah.
As opposed
for connecting it to your
a
MacBook.
lot of them just kind of going, no connectors at all.
Yes.
There are no cables. It is just a microphone. Lol.
Yeah. Did it come with an XLR cable as well? I suppose they would assume you'd have your own. Yeah. If you're doing an XLR setup, you'd have your own cables, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Do you know if it can do that interesting thing? Because there was that one microphone that we were talking about a while back. Might have been
Shure MV7, I think.
Can the Samsung there? Can it do XLR and Type C at the same time? Do you know?
I have no idea. I would guess yes, but no. But I don't know.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, it's not. You'd have to set it up and test it.
I have no XLR stuff to test it with, unfortunately. So yeah, that's kind of only the issue. The only issue with testing that is obviously I don't have the hardware to test it with.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, because I
Eventually,
think
at some point.
yeah, because I think the interesting for me is when you initially told me about the existence of that microphone. Part of me was just like, ooh, because I kind of wanted a new shiny microphone for the shop. But then you said,
Yeah,
oh, it's a dynamic microphone. I'm like, oh, I'm suddenly less interested, just because that doesn't fit my requirements. But
yeah,
yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
I've got the Rode now anyway that I'm going to be testing. But yeah,
Yes, absolutely. And it's eventually at some point the Go XLR will actually come back into stock somewhere at less than £600,
mm,
and I'll pick that up.
yeah. Is that the Shure, the Go XLR, or oh,
No, it's Helicon, and it's an XLR interface.
oh, I see. Yes, yes, I'm with you now. Yeah, fair enough.
So I'll pick that up at some point
Yeah.
and see.
Hmm. Yep, fair enough then. Cool. Yeah, all right.
And then obviously I can also test them whether the USB and XLR are live at the same time.
Hmm.
But it's also got other little bits on there, which I'm just going to mute and point. Because you've got latency-free monitoring because there's a 3.5mm headphone jack on the back,
Okay, yeah.
and also there's a presence boost switch somewhere, which I think is that one. I am now lacking in presence potentially.
Yeah. Hang on a sec. Speak again.
This is without presence boost.
Yeah.
This is with presence boost. This is without presence boost, and this is with presence boost.
Oh, it's very subtle. Yeah. I mean, the other thing as well is we're coming through Discord at the moment, which is probably mangling it as well. Um, so yeah, it's a very subtle difference, but the presence boost it does work a little bit. I without would yeah, like that's a question of if you were doing additional processing in the mixing desk, you'd want that presence boost turned off, and you want to do that in the desk, I would imagine. However, if you're doing like what we're doing here, you're just podcasting, and when you call something like a podcasting mic or something like that, the inference of a podcasting something is that it's just USB and it's just plug in and it works with
Yeah,
virtually no other setup. So like when
yeah,
you're podcasting, having that little presence boost switch just to make your voice a bit more in the room would be better. However, when you're going through a mixing desk, you don't want anything being done in the microphone. You just want a raw
yeah,
output that the
yeah,
mixing
exactly.
guy will then deal with. So, yeah, that
Which I
makes
think is
interesting.
possibly what the difference between the USB and the XLR will be.
Yeah.
The XLR, the buttons don't do anything, as
Ah,
far as I'm
yes.
aware.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. You got the Samsung Meteor, which is great, but it doesn't like deep voices. Ah, that's interesting to know because I've looked at the Samsung Meteor many times and been like, it just looks too small to be good. And yeah, that kind of solves my problem because I've got quite a deep voice, and so yeah, any microphone that dislikes deep voice just destroys my voice basically, which makes me sad.
Absolutely. But yes, it was also the fact, there's also, if you wanted a slightly different setup, there's the G Track Pro, which is a Samsung microphone as well. It's ve it's very similar to, like, the CO1U and stuff like that, but it's got little twiddly knobs on it,
Hmm.
so you can set certain levels inside the microphone,
Okay, yeah,
and also it's got, like, an output on it. So there's a microphone knob on there, an instrument volume knob, and a headphone volume knob, as well as muting, record select modes, and things like that,
yeah,
because it's allowing you to mix inside the microphone.
yeah.
It's got a quarter-inch jack on there as well, so you can stick like a quarter-inch jack from like a guitar or something
Oh
into
wow.
it.
Hmm.
So and then you can mix that and monitor that through the headphone output on the microphone. So you
Interesting.
can kind of mix those 2 together. So it's an interesting setup if you're doing, um, like, I guess, reasonably low budget guitar plus singing setup, because then you can just pipe out a pre-mixed output via USB
Yeah.
to go to YouTube for streaming or something.
Yeah. Again, that's good for a home hobbyist setup that would save you the issue of having to have a full mixing setup. So either some kind of mixing desk, even a small one, or it saves you the trouble of having to go into your guitar amplifier and back out again. So,
yeah, absolutely. So it's just very interesting that such a product exists.
Yeah.
Because clearly they've looked at stuff and kind of gone, oh, this is what people need.
Yeah, that's fair. Have I tried using VST plugins on my audio? I used to use a VST plugin for my brick wall limiter, but OBS has a built-in limiter now, so that's no longer required. But I've never done anything to color my voice at all, mainly because I try to do as little as possible in my setup, because simpler is better. And the more you fiddle with the setup, the harder it is to reproduce it. So I generally try to mess around as little as possible. Like right now, the only filter I've got is I've got a noise suppression filter. I've got the limiter, which is just a brick wall limiter, and I've got 5 decibels of gain. That's all I'm doing. And normally I don't run any gain. However, I've turned the gain on recently because I've had to move the microphone. I've had to lower the input volume of the microphone and increase the gain in order to get rid of the room echo that I've got in here at the moment. So, yeah.
I hate websites that don't include VAT in the price.
Gross, yeah.
So I just looked at something and just went, it's in stock, shipping now, and it's £266. Excellent, I'm going to buy that. Like, right now, I'm buying it. And then
actually over 300.
By the way, we don't include VAT. And I'm just like, excuse me?
Yeah.
What? Okay.
I assume it's business oriented then, because you're not allowed to do that in the UK.
So, yeah, I'm just like, oh, fine. Whatever. So, yeah, it was just a case of I suddenly thought, oh, I wonder if the Go XLR has actually come back into stock. I'll have a look. And it's just like, no. Well, maybe actually, it looks like it's in stock in a couple of places, and the price is now less than £400. So it's getting there.
I see. Yeah. I can see why that initial price would have excited you for a moment then.
Yes, absolutely, because it's a case of stuff was going for like 400, 450, 500, because there just wasn't stock.
Yeah, so less than 300 would have been a bargain.
I was like, oh, good, it's a bargain, and stock is available as well.
Nice.
But no, stupid things. It's like, oh yes, we expect this to be delivered by April. So in other words, you don't have stock.
Yamaha AG06 for a hybrid setup. Yeah, Yamaha definitely like making home stuff like that. Because incidentally, I've got a small mixing desk which I've got lying around. It's quite an old model, but I've got it kicking around, and I've been planning at some point to get it out and see if I can do anything useful with it. But that's a Yamaha, and it's essentially just like a 2-channel mixing desk designed for someone who is at home on a desk but needs XLR and a bit of mixing capability, not just an XLR box with USB, but something with a bit more control over that. It just doesn't need to be a big 32-channel monster that's like 1.5 meters long. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'd say.
Yeah, checking other stuff in chat. A couple of people said, "Oh, how's work been during COVID and stuff like that?" Very busy. I have got plenty of work on the go. It's never let up for me, just because despite everything else, people's computers still break and still need fixing. So it's been about the same. In terms of footfall, again, kind of the same deal. Because I'm a service-based shop, people will come and find me. Yeah, footfall is more or less equal. My old location, I had the advantage of being directly across the road from one of the main car parks for the town. My new location, I'm directly across the road from the post office and the footpath up to Tesco supermarket. So both positions have got a high amount of footfall on them for different reasons. So that's all going well. Let's see. Old owls. What will cause a laptop to turn on and then instantly back off again? No display. Missing voltage rail would be my first guess. 5 volt and 3.3 volt rails not coming up. Some laptops, the 5 and 3.3 volt rails are always on. However, on some boards, the 5 volt and 3.3 volt rails, they don't turn on until the laptop does. And I have seen it before where I was banging my head against a brick wall with a big HP Envy, not Envy, a HP Omen for ages, where the 5 volt rail wasn't coming on. You press the power button and the light would come on for half a second, and then the laptop would switch off because the 5 volt rail was not coming on. And if I actually injected 5 volts onto the 5 volt rail, the laptop would switch on and work. But it couldn't. The 5 volt regulator would not run on its own, and I could not solve it. It wasn't the chip, it wasn't the capacitors. I couldn't figure it out. But yeah, so as I say, my guess is a voltage rail is not coming up. Again, as Chris Kingham pointed out, don't forget the obvious stuff like memory and that kind of thing. However, I'm guessing you've already tried that. So yeah, check the voltage rails. Check that you've got your 5 volt, your 3.3 volt, and check that CPU vCore is coming up as well, because that's another rail that will come on when you press the power button. And if you press the power button, the laptop switches on, but vCore doesn't come up, the CPU doesn't switch on, the laptop goes, and switches off again.
Did the Dell person come back? The one with the smoldering connector? The XPS?
No, they never came back. They never came back. So I could phone them and say, hey, how's your laptop doing? But in a way, I don't feel like it's my job to chase them up about that. I did specifically say to them, if there's a problem, let me know. We'll look at it for free. Do come in so we can inspect it for free. Haven't heard back from them. So, yeah, I'm probably not going to chase that. But yeah, I would imagine if there were further problems with it, if there were any more problems with it, I would imagine I'd have seen them again. So
yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a case of, I don't know if they would kind of turn around and go, oh, well, look, I took it to them to repair and then they didn't do anything about it. Even though I didn't tell them there was still an issue, because that's conversations I've had with people before.
Yeah.
They've been,
well,
you didn't do anything to solve my issue. And my response has been, yes, because you never told me.
Yeah.
Now that you've told me, I can do something.
This is why I'm always very, like, when I always say, the thing that I always say to everyone when they pick up their computer, you know, as they're going out the door, I say, thank you very much. If there's any problems with that, bring it back in. We'll look at it free of charge. You know, and I say any problems. I don't say if it does it again. I don't say if there is a problem with our work. I don't say, you know, I just say if there's anything wrong with the laptop at all, we'll look at it again free of charge. There are no exceptions to that, you know. So and that is just me saying, you know, don't be that person that just goes somewhere else because there was another issue. Come and talk to us. We will not charge you more money just to look at it again, kind of thing. And I hope that kind of goes through to people. So that's the best that I feel like I can do, to be honest. Because unfortunately, just, you know, customers going to customer, and if they, you know, if they don't pay attention and they just end up going somewhere else or not getting it fixed because they couldn't be bothered, then there was nothing that I could really say or do that would change their minds. And I mean, the only other thing I can do is, as I say, just dig out the customer details and call them up and say, hey, remember how I asked you to come back in? Could you bring your laptop back in? You know,
yeah.
Is that weird? I don't know.
Possibly.
I suppose a follow-up call is not unsolicited.
Yeah,
but
certainly in the case of kind of going, there was an issue where you're like not certain if this is actually going to fix it.
Yeah. Also, Sai, when you say we as in the royal we, I know what you mean. I also use the royal we. when saying to people, even like the customer knows it's just like for 10 years I've been in my small shop and I've been like, we've been looking at your laptop and it's me in a shed kind of thing. It's been the most transparent royal we that it possibly could be. But yeah, it feels like that's the professional thing to do. This organization has been looking at your laptop. This organization of people, and by organization I mean me, and by people I mean me. So
there's organization.
You remember when I refused to say we? Did I? Unless for a while I was deliberately avoiding we for this exact reason. I didn't want to use the royal we because it sounded pretentious, especially when it's very clearly just you know. But I don't know. I feel like we is simpler, and also it means that I don't know. Yeah.
I know. I guess I've always just said, "Oh, call me."
Yeah, I guess.
I guess
it depends. It depends on on the context, I guess. I'll often say, quite often I'll say, "Oh, we've been looking at your laptop and I've found this," kind of thing. You know. I guess. Yeah, I don't know. This Omnicorp has looked at your 2000s laptop. Don't I feel as if I've set myself up when I say any problems? In a way, yes, and in a way, no. You're not wrong, because I am inviting someone to bring in an unrelated issue. But then on the other hand, on the occasions when someone comes back and it is an unrelated issue, I'll just say to them, this is an unrelated issue to the other issue. I appreciate there's still an issue with that there is another problem with this laptop. However, this is not related to the work we did, and this problem did not exist when we looked at it. Or sometimes, but the other thing as well is that I feel like it's worth keeping an open mind, because if they come in with an unrelated issue, if that issue was there when you looked at the laptop, arguably it's still my fault for not having spotted and dealt and addressed the problem while it was in for repair. Because even if that's not what the customer brought it in for, like, if you take your car in for for an oil change, and it turns out that one of your suspension springs had snapped in half, if I took my car in for an oil change and I took it away again and they didn't spot that the suspension spring had snapped in half, I'd be like, what the hell? How did you not spot that? I know I didn't ask you to look for it, but I feel like they have, I don't know, I think obligation might be the wrong word, but I feel like a garage that did not just do a cursory look at everything and just make sure that the car was safe before giving it back to me, I feel like that is somewhat again, negligent is the wrong word, but a shortcoming. So it's the same with me. If a laptop comes in for a broken screen, and this has happened many times before, if a laptop comes in for a broken screen, and I replace the screen, and it turns out the hard drive was failing as well, they brought it in for a replacement screen, and I did fix the broken screen, but I completely ignored the fact that the hard drive was failing. It's not. I don't feel like it's up to the customer to have identified that. I feel like it's a shortcoming on my part to have not looked at the laptop and been like, hey, the hard drive is also failing. That needs to be dealt with, and spoken to the customer about that. Obviously, you give them the option. You say, hey, we've also spotted this. Do you want us to address this as well? Or do you just want us to get this screen replaced? That's where communication with the customer comes in. But but yeah, as I say, it's difficult and very context sensitive, I think. But I don't think I have obligations to cover all of this stuff, but I certainly feel like it is. I feel like it is poor form to not take responsibility for stuff that clearly you would have noticed if you were paying attention.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Yeah. Like, not legally binding, but certainly poor form.
Certainly for stuff which is immediately obvious for when touching it kind of case.
Yeah.
As you said with the suspension example, it's a case of that's immediately obvious because it will be sitting very wrong.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
in
yeah,
the case
Omnicron
of
just said, why would the mechanic look at the suspension if you came in for an oil change? And like, I see what you mean there, and same, but
the wheel sitting really screwy compared with the other three,
yeah, I think the implication is that this is
it
something that will
does.
be apparent.
Yeah,
You know, if it's something, yeah, I think it's. This is working on the assumption that it's something that is apparent that you should have seen.
yeah,
That any competent technician would have spotted, that the average customer would not have spotted, because the average person may not notice that their car is sitting on the tilt. You know, they
yeah,
might not notice that because they don't look, because customers don't look.
yeah,
However, any experienced technician should immediately go, "That's on the piss, mate," and taking a look at the
yeah,
suspension. You know, so I think that's the implication here. But yeah, likewise, I have had cases where people have brought their computer back in, and said, I'm trying to think of a good example. They've said sort of, "Oh, one of the USB ports isn't working," and I'm like, "Isn't it?" Okay, I don't know. I didn't go around and test every single USB port on the laptop. I just happened to have plugged my test kit into the other USB port that was working. You know,
mm,
this laptop, this laptop was not in for a full test of all connections, and
mm,
I did not test all the connections, because if you're saying sort of, "Oh well, you should have tested all the USB ports," it's like, well, what about the SD card reader? Was I meant to test that? The webcam, should I have tested that as well? Yeah, so this is where it gets into a really grey area. It's like, well, how far does this go? And this is where you go in. This is where you get into terms like um, due diligence and within reason, where
yeah,
essentially it's you have to use your discretion. And
mm,
I think a reasonable person can deduce where you have been reasonable. And if someone starts calling you out saying, "Oh, you didn't do this, that, or the other," I think at that
mm,
point you can always reasonably look at something and go, "That's not something that I was expected to do," or you can be like, "That's something I probably should have spotted. We'll have another look at it for free, and we'll do parts only," or something like that. So
yeah.
I don't know.
Basically, yeah, and I think that's what a lot of it is kind of a case of, um, it depends on what the setup is. It depends on what the situation is, and people are always gonna try and find ways that it doesn't particularly fit in with whatever the situation is, and how it's somehow now your fault.
Yeah, yeah. Likewise, a
And
couple of
but
people have just pointed out that
I
like the auto industry is filled with scammers who will unplug things and be like, sort of, "Oh, this is unplugged," and things like that. So, yeah, maybe not a great example. Obviously, I think all of this is working on the assumption that everyone's an honest person. Because the problem is, if you introduce the idea that's of dishonesty, then the discussion will break down, because that's when you get into the
mm,
legal weeds, really.
yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of, I think it's also the case of if you kind of turn around and go, "Oh, it looks like you've got an issue with these things. Do you want them fixed?" And the person
Yeah,
turns around and goes, "No," and then you go, "Okay, that's fine. I've told you.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
You've
I
given
think you
some."
just have to. Good faith is definitely the term here. Yeah, I think generally speaking, when talking about this, we have to assume good faith, and I think when working in practice with the customer, I think you just simply have to reinforce good faith. You have to say, "I have done a good faith in inspection," which is not legally binding one way or the other per se, but this is just something I noticed. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Hmm. Right, we need a new topic, I think. Anything else you've heard about recently that you thought was interesting?
Not particularly recently, but a couple of weeks ago, saw that someone was releasing an SSD with a dedicated SLC cache area on it that is a fixed sized and separately partitioned off and stuff like that.
Why would you
for it.
not just put a DRAM chip on it?
No, so it's got DRAM on there,
Hmm.
but it's got an SLC cache on there, so you've got part of it for, the write acceleration and stuff, it happens,
Oh,
but
okay.
it's got a more intelligent, um, shedding from that cache. So
Hmm.
instead of it being sort of a case of write everything here very, very quickly and then evacuate it, and then
Okay, yeah.
empty the cache kind of thing, it's an accelerator cache kind of thing. So
Hmm.
it's like 128 gigs on a 2 terabyte SSD that's
Yeah.
effectively an accelerator area on top of it, and it was quite interesting, but it was also just kind of a case of, for the price, I could just buy a dramatically faster SSD than the SSD they were selling, and it was
Yeah.
just kinda like, it's a very clever idea, and it's a very interesting idea, and they're like, "Well, it gives you the size and it gives you the longevity." And I was like,
Hmm.
"Yes, or I could buy 2 cheap SSDs for the same price of this one and just have one of them fail."
Yeah. Was
And
it
it was just,
was it Kioxia?
I can't remember, it was a
Okay,
brand I
yeah.
didn't
Yeah,
recognize
because I
the
was going to
name
say a
of.
couple of people are just talking about Kioxia because Linus Tech Tips just did a video with some of their recent stuff, and I don't remember if it was with regarding this technology specifically, but it definitely sounds like if it turned out to be Kioxia, it would be a case of the reason that brand seems to be making drives that have very very niche uses, but for someone who needs exactly that, it's worth gold kind of thing,
Hmm,
which
absolutely.
which is always an interesting brand that makes products that have a narrow appeal, but for the people who actually need them, it's a godsend. Those are very interesting. So yeah,
Yeah. So, yeah, it's, but yeah, it was just kind of a case of, like, it was the price of it that made it
yeah,
least attractive to me, because I think it was something like 300-400 pounds for a 2 terabyte drive,
yeah.
and I was like, "Or I can buy 2 terabyte drives for that price."
Yeah, that does seem to make less sense because
Yeah.
in some instances, you could say sort of, oh well, it's enterprise and it's designed to go in a enclosure where you don't have space for two drives or something like that. But then 2 terabytes isn't exactly mind blowing capacity for that kind of use case either.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
it's just kind of like, even that, if I don't have the space for 2 of them, I just have 1 and replace it when it fails.
Yeah,
And then someone says, "Oh, but what about your data?" Well, that's why you have 3-2-1 backups,
yeah,
because I'm gonna have 3-2-1 backups even with the most reliable SSD that money can buy.
hmm.
I'm still gonna have backups.
And if you're working in a space where if you're working in a mission critical environment where you do not want failure, you're going to have something that's a lot more exotic anyway. So,
You're just gonna have a spare,
yeah,
you know? The fastest solution to something failing is having 2 of them and just going, "Old one's failed, new one in, ta-da,"
yeah,
kind of.
yeah. Teltac just said people use enterprise for very different things than enterprise think about. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
It's
a
just like,
weird space.
weird.
Hmm. Interesting.
It's just very weird kind of thing. I'm like, I'm glad that people are thinking about it and thinking about how to use stuff in different ways, but at the same time, I'm like, I am utterly unaware of what the market is, but I'm glad to see that there is one maybe for you,
Hmm.
and that you continue experimenting with weird stuff.
Yeah, this is one of the things why, in a way, I really like the Linus Tech Tips videos about enterprise gear like this because it's really easy to look at those and be like, you guys are a tech channel aimed at enthusiasts. How is this content relevant to your audience? But the thing is, I don't know a lot about enterprise stuff because it's not something I work with. I work with
No.
consumer stuff because I'm a high street shop. I
Yeah,
don't work in business space, so I don't know a lot about servers and that kind of thing. So for me, when channels like Linus Tech Tips do content that covers enterprise gear, I'm just like, this is cool. I'm learning about what kind of stuff is out there, and
yeah,
you see, and it's always good when you like they gloss over some of the bits that I find very interesting. But if you read between the lines or you watch between the lines, so to speak, there's lots of interesting stuff. Like you look at the servers and you hear how loud the fans on them are and things like that, and you understand what forced airflow means in a case. Forced airflow doesn't mean you've got a fan on your heatsink. Forced airflow means the chassis is a heckin' wind tunnel,
Absolutely.
which is why those server heat sinks, you're like, how is that heat sink big enough for anything? And it's like, well, when you have a freaking tornado going through the chassis, that heat sink is plenty big enough.
Absolutely. It does, in a way, surprise me that the heat sinks are as small as they are, given that there is often space and so on for a larger one. It's just one of those things where I'm like, it's surprising that that is the way that the optimization has gone. That going for a bigger heatsink doesn't benefit you in some other way.
I think presumably is because you want in consumer gear, big heat sinks are good because it means you can run your fan slower. But I'm speaking out of ignorance here, by the way. Whereas if you're in a server rack, you don't want the heat in a core in the middle of your server rack. You want the heat out of the rack. So you actually want your heatsink to be as small as you can possibly get away with, so it's not holding on to heat, and you want to blow that heat out the back as fast as possible. Would be my guess.
Absolutely. I was thinking more just from the point of view of the fact of if you had a bigger heatsink on it, it would be, it would just be a case of you could have higher clock speeds. You could have, in theory, opportunistic boost on server stuff.
Oh yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah,
that's what I'm kind of saying. It's just interesting that isn't something that's of interest. That isn't something that would be a benefit, and I guess it's because the workloads aren't particularly bursty.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
A couple of people, I just acknowledge a couple of things. Is Lawrence says, Linus, trust me, Linus is far from enterprise. Yeah, I can believe you. As I say, just dabble as just someone who knows very little about enterprise. Someone else also pointed out Wendell from Level 1 Techs is good for enterprise gear. I have never watched Level 1 Techs. I'm aware of them because Linus Tech Tips have shouted them out many times. And I should take a look at their stuff if I'm interested in this. In fact, that's a really good idea. But I actually need to go and subscribe to them so I can start watching their videos because, as I say, that's a topic that I'm interested in. I want to binge content about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So and also Teltac obviously has a bit of data center experience because of what he does, and hot and cold aisles, and you want small unit size. That is true. Interesting. You're always designing for what is O1 work? So always designed to be consistent rather than bursty loads. Hence the no requirement for opportunistic boosting. So that kind of makes sense, I guess. Right. Are we done today? Because I think we're kind of winding down at the moment. Yeah. Chat is a little bit. There's people are chatting in chat about this stuff, and I'm just like, this is kind of interesting, but I'm sensing dead air at the moment, and I'm like, this is a really cool discussion, but I feel like this is more of a discussion for the chat room rather than for the show.
I also just think the fact of it's delightful to take that comment from Teltac out of context.
What, Big O? Fair enough.
More just not understanding it. It's like, oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, Big O notation. O1 basically means the work is consistent. Huh, fair enough. This is a discussion for some beer in a bar. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yep. I do like this talk.
And also just a case of actually having an environment where it's relevant and live, so you can actually see why decisions are made.
Yeah. You could always come in here and derail. Oh, it's Slinkinage. What's up, Slink? How's it going? I think we're winding down. I'm gonna make an executive decision and wind down because this is a cool discussion, but this is definitely a discussion for a chat room rather than the podcast. I think need some out. Yeah, I was trying to decide whether to stick around tonight and record a video. I want to do the video on my heckin' Pine-Sol soldering iron, and yeah, I'm tired. The problem is if you don't record videos, I keep saying I'll do it another time, but the problem is the next time will be after a day of work when I'm tired again. So, any kit building streams planned?
If you've got an interesting idea for it right now, I guess.
Maybe. Well, I know what I'm going to do. It's funny you should say kit streams because I've been trying to think how can I make a new video and review for a soldering iron, because it's I can I'll be demonstrating the power inputs for it and stuff like that, but it's a case of, well, what am I going to do with it? You know, I don't have any repairs right now that I want to do that I'm going to do specifically with this. The work that I was doing on the monitors this morning and the board repair during the week, I reached for my TS100 for that, because in the heat at the moment, I'm just like, I need the soldering iron that I know works and I know exactly how it behaves. I don't want to test a new soldering iron right now. So didn't use it for that. So what I'm going to do is I was actually going to do a kit build for the video. So I've got a tiny little kit build, and I'm just like, right, to review this soldering iron, I'm going to build a kit with it. So I'm going to do a kit build with that. I do have another kit build though. So where's the other one? Hang on a sec. It's a clock thing. I've lost it. I'm giving up looking for it.
You've lost your clock.
Oh well, when I say I've lost it, I don't know where it is. And I've looked over there. I can't see it. I'm giving up on this. I'm moving on. Anyway, it's over there somewhere. I have got a kit that I could build on stream. So I do want to do a kit build stream. I just don't know when. I don't know when to do it. Yeah. I guess I could just do it on an evening at some point as an off-the-cuff thing. So yeah, I don't know when. I will have to plan it. Who else is about? You got here late. Yeah, that's fair. Oh, is there a Zolly in chat as well? There is a Zolly. Hello, Zolly. How's it going?
Interesting news thing that was just a fact about Virgin Media are now testing 400 gigabit single line connections.
400 gig single line?
Yes.
Good grief.
So they can then put 400 gig through a single fiber to do a street and stuff.
Yeah, so that wouldn't be to your house. That would be to the cabinet, so they could then do. So yeah, I suppose you would then more or less be able to do at least half gig to every house on the street, really, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I can't remember what. I think they're currently limited to. I think the fastest you can get on Virgin on the network is currently 330 megabit, because that's the maximum of DOCSIS 3. They're rolling out new kit to do DOCSIS 3.1, which will take them up to synchronous gigabit as peak maximum. So yeah, it will mean that basically they can continue rolling out gigabit to houses. So it's just, yeah, very interesting that it's happening.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. Not really useful to us, because Virgin basically doesn't exist in Dorset. A Virgin in Poole?
It's Tut North.
Oh, Tut North, yeah. Tut North.
Virgin Tut North because they're Telly West. Well, Tut North and Midlands.
Tut Ellie West.
Yes. and the other one, and NT Hell.
Oh, NTL, there's a name I've not... Yeah, NT Hell. Oh, I remember those jokes. I remember those jokes from college days back in the early noughties.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, I do remember when one of my clients who I used to do home call outs to, he got NTL and he had 1 megabit broadband. And when I saw the speed of it when I was around his house, I was just like, holy crap, that's fast. I was like, God, imagine downloading at 1 megabit per second. Oh, yeah.
I think the thing that's really depressing for me is how slow both the office broadband is and my home broadband feels for general browsing a lot of the time.
What speed have you got again?
The office connection is 8020.
8020.
And home is 1150. So it's gigabit down, 150 mega up.
Well, that's the thing. And I think
general browsing feels like arse on both of them.
That's the thing, because that the problem there is this has been diminishing returns for a while. This is why the internet has not felt any faster since the days of like 2 megabit broadband, because we're currently limited just by lag and stuff, because it's just a matter of like, just when you click the link, your computer has to send the request to the server, get the response, and then the server has to send the data back, and it's latency. It's an issue of latency.
Well,
And
it's also just the fact even a basic simple website built in WordPress now is like 400 megs a page.
Yeah, that does not help.
Full of shite scripting in the background that just does nothing. This is like, oh,
yeah, because bloody everyone who wants to have any kind of everyone who wants to have a website has to have a bloody 100 megabyte JavaScript library that loads on every page load.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, I think it is just a lag issue though as well. Is that it doesn't matter how fast your download speed is. It's kind of like copying small files from a flash drive. You know, if you've got 500 10 kilobyte files to copy off a flash drive, doesn't matter if that flash drive can do 1,000 megs per second. You're still going to get garbage speeds from it. And so the really high speed, I think it's only useful for either A, having lots of people on the line at the same time, or B, when you just simply want to do a big download fast. So, you know, you can download GTA 5 in 5 minutes. But yeah, for actually everything else, it's not actually practical. Which is one of the reasons why I've got no interest in getting any faster broadband than I have. I've got 80/20 at home and at the shop, and I've zero interest in going any faster than that.
Yeah. The only reason I did it is because they were doing a deal for me where it was £5 a month, I think, more to go to fibre to the home than it was for our fibre to cabinet connection. And our fibre to cabinet connection could only do 22 megabit.
Okay, yeah.
But have 22 megabit or have gigabit for £5 more. And I was like, £5 more to have actual fibre the entire length to the exchange.
Yeah.
Sure.
Why wouldn't you? Yeah.
Yeah, basically. So I was like, yeah, that's absolutely fine. And I think ours was the first house that was connected up.
Yeah. Wouldn't surprise me for that.
It's also the case of, you know, bribing BT engineers with tea and biscuits.
I tried to do that when the BT engineer came around here, like you said, because you told me you were just like, make sure you got tea and biscuits for your BT engineer. And I was ready. I had hobnobs and I had tea. I went out and bought a heckin' pack of Tetley, which I'm never gonna drink, specifically for him. And he rocked up, and I was like, "Do you want a cup of tea, biscuit, anything like that?" And he's like, "I'm fine, thanks, mate." I was like, "Oh." So I was very disappointed.
Absolutely. But yeah, it's the fact that bribing a BT engineer is the only way we got functional broadband at the house. 2006.
It's because he knew you had Tetley. He didn't know what I had. I didn't specify what kind of tea.
Oh, dear. Wow. Yeah, I remember lusting over the possibility of bonding dual 56K dial-up modems. And just being like, think of the bandwidth. 12 kilobits a second.
Yeah. I just, everything seems fast when you get it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the idea of doing that. And then it was the fact of that never happened. And like a year later, we upgraded to broadband and got a 512 connection, being able to do like 64 kilobits a second and just being like, So, yeah. But anyway, I feel that is a good point for us to ring off.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, I'll just quickly whiz down the chat. Hi, Graham and Caradog. Please call out my name. Ugh. Pro tip, don't ask for shout-outs just because it's awkward. However, all the same though, hello, Shriram? I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name, but hello anyway. Appreciate it, my dude. Have a nice afternoon. Lots of discussion about the correct tea. Everyone agrees that hobnobs are great, so we're on the right page there at least. And yep, and I think we're about done. Yeah, let's jet off. Part of me would love to just sit and just carry on shooting crap for hours, but that would need to be a different kind of session, I think. But I don't know.
Yes, it would possibly require not being in the studio.
Yeah, yeah. And like someone also said kit build stream now, and I'm just like, oh man, that would be so tempting. But also, I'm actually really hungry, so yeah, I am going to I don't know. No, I'm tired. My brain is shutting down. The fact that I'm stopping, that's how you know that it's time to stop. The fact that I'm sitting going, what was I thinking about again?
About Hobbs,
yeah.
apparently.
That's how you know it's time to hit stop and walk out the room and just go and do something else. I'm shutting down.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you everyone for coming along. Thanks for the super chats. Thanks for stopping by. Thank you to my chums who I've seen pop in. Slinkinage, Zolly, the gang. I spotted you in chat there. Thanks for dropping by as well. We'll see you guys next Saturday as always, and there will be a kit building stream at some point. You know, I might. No, I won't do. I won't do it for this soldering iron. For a minute, I was like, shall I do a stream for when I record the build for this soldering iron? But I won't do that. But there will be a kit building stream at some point. I will do an announcement when it will come up. So as usual, keep your eyes on the Twitter, join the Discord, etc., etc., etc. And I will see you guys soon. Oh yeah, Dorset Tech, big ups as well. Thank you very much for, big shout out to Dorset Tech for sending me the secret hamper. Big thanks, really appreciate it, lovely stuff. And thank you to everyone else who sent me loads of kind messages about the move as well. I appreciate all of you guys. There's the link to the Discord. And we'll see you guys soon. That's all. I'm going to hit stop streaming. Thanks, everyone. End stream. Bye for now. Toodles.
Oh. Toodaloo.
End stream.